Hello, guys. Welcome to Captain Dorja's Armory. This is Captain Dorja. We're going to be taking a look at a little bit of Tiger action today. I played some really fun platoon battles last night with a couple of people that I just met. I recently joined the North American server contingent of QSF, which is, for those of you who are not aware, QSF is the clan community for Quickie Baby, and we just started QSFNA, and by we I mean they just started QSFNA, and we don't have very many members right now. In fact, if we take a look, we can see that there's not many people actually in the clan, but I've had a couple of pretty fun platoon sessions with a couple of these guys, and last night I played some platoon battles with Crew Dog 16 and his friend, who is not a member of the clan, who is named Rarge, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But man, we had some good games, and we played two back-to-back games where I was driving my Tiger, Crew Dog was driving his A44, and Rarge was driving his T25/2. And Crew Dog and Rarge were grinding their tanks, and I was just playing the Tiger for fun. And man, those two back-to-back games were just amazing. So we're going to look at the first one that we played now, and in the second battle that we look at in another video, we will look at the second battle. And man, it was just crazy. So, continuing the clan plug here for a minute. Anybody who's interested in QSF, I will post a link in the video description for the QSF NA, which shows the clan requirements and all that jazz. Basically, I can sum some of it up for you. You have to be a stream follower of Quickie Baby's live stream, and if you're not a stream follower of Quickie Baby and you have never heard of Quickie Baby and you've seen any of my videos, you should totally watch him on Twitch TV. I'll put in a link to his YouTube channel, his Twitch channel, and the clan requirements page, just so that you guys can check out some of Quickie Baby's stuff. He's a really, really good player and really fun to watch, really entertaining, and he's incredibly skillful, very knowledgeable, and almost everybody could stand to learn quite a bit from the way he plays this game, because he's really good at it. So anyway, moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about the Tiger, and then we're going to get this thing into battle. Now, the Tiger is a really fun tank, and that's kind of a controversial statement, because in World of Tanks, the Tiger is actually regarded as being fairly crappy. And that makes a lot of people really mad, because the common perception of the Tiger is that it was basically invincible. Its armor could shrug off anything that was ever fired at it, and its gun could instantly knock out anything that it could hit, all that type of stuff. And whether you want to get into the historical aspects of whether the Tiger was really as great as it's reputed to be or not, that's really not a pertinent discussion, because World of Tanks is not a historical simulator. World of Tanks is an arcade game, and when you drive a Tiger in World of Tanks, you're not on a historical battlefield in North Africa against, early model Shermans and early model Churchills. You're not fighting a stock T-34 on the fields of Russia, where you can fire a 1,500 meter shot and hit the T-34 before he even sees you. We're playing World of Tanks, a very arcade-based game. Usually your engagements are going to be between 0 and about 500 meters, things like that. Tanks have health pools, and crew members can be instantly revived. So historical conversation about the Tiger is essentially not valid. So we're just going to gloss right over any other historical comments, other than this one thing. Half the reason why everyone thinks the Tiger is way, way too weak is because of what you end up fighting. And this is an observation made by the Mighty Jingles. This is not my original observation. If we look on the tech tree, the Tiger is a Tier 7 heavy, which, puts it in the middle area of the sort of high-tier tanks, kind of where you first start coming in with the big boys. The Tiger was ending up fighting alongside mostly German Panzer IVs and Stug 3s, which we can see those are tier 5s. It would have been used some during other vehicles that would have been in service at the same time. Would have been the Panther, which is also a tier 7, and in limited quantities, Jagdpanzer IVs, Jagdpanthers, and in even more limited quantities, Tiger IIs. But mostly, if you look at the things that the Germans were still fielding, they were mostly using tier 5s. What in this game are tier 5s? Panzer IVs and Stug 3s were really really bore the brunt of the Germans' armored warfare efforts throughout the entirety of World War II. So, just kind of keep that in mind. And then we look at some of the tanks that the Tiger fought. The Tiger fought M10 Wolverines, M4 Shermans, M36 Jacksons, M18 Hellcats. Sherman EZ8s came in fairly late in the war, but, we did use them. Sherman Jumbos, those were actually used in the war. We're looking at tier 5 and tier 6 tanks here. So in World of Tanks, the main arm of the American armor was made up of M4 Shermans, a tier 5. Things like the Hellcat and the Jackson in World of Tanks are armed with 90mm guns. I don't know if the Jackson had a 90mm gun in World War II. It might have, but I know the Hellcat only had a 76mm gun. So even the firepower in the game of some of these tier 6 and tier 5 tanks is actually stronger than what it would have been in real World War II. Things that the Tiger would have been fighting against for British: mid-model Churchills, Cromwells. I don't think it would have ran into any Crusaders, but maybe in North Africa right at the beginning. But essentially, a Cromwell and a mid-model Churchill, you're looking at something like a tier 6 or like a tier 5.5. So again, we're looking at a tier 7 beating up on tier 6s. Tanks that the Russians fielded against the Tiger, primarily T-34s, which are tier 5s. And later in the war, T-34 85s. To a limited extent, you would have run into KV-1Ss, but remember, the KV-1S historically would be basically in its stock configuration in the game. It wouldn't have that powerful gun. It would be pretty weak. Now, about the only other real sort of big boy on the block that the Tiger would have ran into in actual combat in World War II would be ISs and the occasional Su-152. And the IS was built in a lot of ways to fight tanks like the Tiger. So it's reasonable to think that a tank that was historically designed to kill a Tiger would be pretty good at it in the game as well. And that makes sense, because if we then look at a Tiger II, which is a bigger, more badass Tiger, meant to fight even bigger and badder enemy tanks, a Tiger II chews up an IS-2 pretty easily. So, it's actually pretty fair. So people look at what the Tigers were able to do historically, and, historically the Tigers were fighting things that were way crappier than them in terms of firepower and armor protection. Well, in World of Tanks, they don't end up fighting those, you don't just get to Seal Club all the time. We don't lose one Tiger in World of Tanks amidst 50 Shermans and a bottleneck. That's not how this game works. We fight IS-2s, ISs. We fight tanks that are designed to kill Tigers. The Tiger has to fight things that are meant to counter it specifically. So it stands to reason that it's not as effective at just running out and slaughtering hordes and hordes of enemies while deflecting all their shots as people initially think it should be in the game. And because the Tiger has such a reputation as an amazing tank in real World War II, when a lot of people get into this game, they immediately assume that German tanks are the strongest, the Tiger tank is the ultimate tank in the game, they rush straight for the Tiger, and then they're really disappointed when they run up against something like a fully upgraded T-29, and they find out that the T-29 can penetrate their armor. Well, the T-29 should penetrate their armor. it was it's a prototype that's meant to be like a counter to these big German heavies. So, yeah, it can penetrate you. Alright, so we've talked about the only real historical considerations that are at all valid, and we've been kind of rambling on a little bit, so we're going to look at the characteristics of the tank that define it in the actual game, and then we're going to get into battle. Most important thing about the Tiger is its gun. The Tiger is a gun tank, and it has a good gun. The 88mm KWK-43 L71. I really, really like this gun a lot. And here's why. 8.96 round per minute rate of fire, that's really fast. 203 penetration on a tier 7 heavy, 203 penetration is plenty. It's more than the IS, it's more than the IS-2, it's more than the Black Prince. It's as much as the T-29. You know, you've got enough penetration to get the job done. You don't need more pen. 203 is plenty. The average damage of the gun is only 240, which is not that much. But you're firing 8.96 rounds per minute, which is worth. It's worth pointing out the rate of fire on the T-29. The T-29 is firing 5.26 rounds per minute because it does 320 damage per shot. It's also worth mentioning the rate of fire on the IS-2, because the IS-2 is doing 390 damage per shot, but it is putting those shots out only 4.8 times per minute, 4.88 times a minute. So with a Tiger 2, or a Tiger rather, you're firing almost 2 shots for every shot from an IS-2, and you're doing about 2/3 the damage per hit. So what that means is you've got a significant advantage in the damage per minute that you can deal with this tank. And with your good penetration, most of your shots should penetrate the enemy armor, which is good. Next, the gun accuracy, .34. .34 accuracy is pretty good. It's not as good as it once was. Back in the day, the Tiger had one of the most accurate guns in the game. I think it was third after the Tiger II and the Jagdtiger. But still, .34 accuracy is really good. It's definitely accurate enough for very long-range sniping. You can be very effective with this tank at very long range. And 2.7 second aiming time. That's not really anything spectacular. It's actually pretty average. It's right in the middle. It's not long like a Russian gun, but it's definitely not fast like something like the Caernarvon. But we can definitely make it work. Alright, so that's your gun. And your gun really determines a lot of the way that you want to play this tank. And it also, the way you want to play this tank is also determined by the armor. Because the armor on the Tiger is actually not that great. And there's a couple of reasons why. First of all, if you look at the hull is a box. This plate has got a little bit of sloping on it, but really it doesn't have hardly any at all. The lower plate is almost straight up as well. The sides are straight up. There's not any spaced armor. It's 100 millimeters thick at the front, both on the hull and on the turret. But because it's straight up, you're only getting 100 millimeters of thickness. So you want to angle the Tiger a lot. Its side armor is almost as thick as its front armor at 80 degrees on the sides of both the hull and the turret. And because of that, you want to angle this tank quite a bit. Something like 30 to 40 degrees. Also, because your armor is not very thick, the best way to make your armor effective is to just try not to get shot. The Tiger is not a close-range, close combat tank. You know, in an IS or an IS-2, you want to get your face right up against the enemy and then shoot them in the head with your giant gun. With the Tiger, you don't want to do that. You want to stand off as far away from the enemy as possible and just blast away at them, shot after shot after shot after shot, with your high rate of fire, high penetration, high accuracy gun. That is my phone and computer going off because my dad just sent me a Facebook message. Moving right along. So, because the Tiger is kind of thinly armored and it has a really good sniper gun, you want to use your long-range ability as an advantage to keep yourself out of harm's way. But that's not the only way you have to play this tank, and you have other attributes that give you more durability than it may seem, and that is your hit points. The Tiger has 1,500 health, which is a ton. 1,500 health. That's only 100 less than a Tiger II. I think it's the same amount as an IS-3. This tank has about 200 to 300 more health than any of the other Tier 7 heavies. This thing has so much HP combined with high damage per minute that even though you don't have the giant alpha potential like an IS or the comparatively good alpha potential of a T-29, it doesn't really matter, because if you have to get into a close quarters fight, there are a lot of tanks in the game that you can just use your HP pool to absorb their damage and use your high rate of fire, high penetration gun to just pen them every single shot and just smoke them really, really fast. And while you don't want to be getting in close quarters fights with the Tiger all the time, it can definitely do close quarters combat. You just have to know what you're doing, and you have to do it right. It's definitely not the strongest way to use the tank. You don't want to immediately go close quarters with it, but you can do it as long as you know what you're doing and you do it in the right situations. So that is definitely something worth remembering. And we'll see me doing that in the second video that we show. I spend basically the entire battle in the first fight as a long-range sniper, but in the second fight, I spent pretty much the entire time close quarters brawling against brawler tanks. So, the Tiger can get the job done in a brawl. It's just not, it's not exactly what you want to be doing with it. One real downside that I will point out for the Tiger is its mobility is okay, but it's not amazing. This is one of the only tanks where I've seen much change in the performance after the German engine nerf. Like the E75, everyone whined and complained that the E75 was getting an engine nerf, and what basically ended up happening is the E75 lost 300 horsepower and gained mobility, which sounds controversial, but it's true. The Tiger didn't lose much horsepower, but it definitely lost mobility. It used to have better acceleration, and it used to turn better. It still has decent maneuverability, especially for a German heavy tank, and it is quite a large tank. It's a 58-ton tank. But, you're not as mobile as, you're not a medium tank, that's for sure. You're not as mobile as like a really agile heavy, like say an IS or an IS-3, or definitely not like an IS-8. But you're not a big, slow, lumbering heavy either. That was one reason why I've always preferred the Tiger over the Tiger P, because the Tiger P is just a Tiger that is slower and has troll armor on the front hull. I've always preferred the mobility advantage that the Tiger has over the Tiger P. I found that the armor did not help me, and that because I was so much less mobile, I would get into situations where I couldn't maneuver out of them, where in a Tiger 1, I would have been able to. So, we've been in the garage for a long time. I just want to quickly go over two other real quick things, and then we'll be in battle. And those things are equipment and crew skills. Equipment, I would definitely go gun rammer, vents, gun laying drive. And the reason for this is pretty simple. First of all, gun rammer, a huge portion of the way this tank operates is by maximizing its rate of fire, so a gun rammer is a great option there. Number two, improved ventilation. Improved ventilation is going to help you with all your gunner skills, and since this is a gun-oriented tank, that's a very, very good thing to have. You want your gunner skills maximized. The other reason why improved vents are really, really good is mobility is actually your number 2 weapon in the Tiger, and since some of the nerfs, since the engine nerf, it is not as mobile as it once was, and the improved ventilation will just get your driver skills up a little bit more, which will help make the tank better. And a gun-laying drive, because the gun's aiming time is not fantastically fast, and with the amount of long-range sniping you're going to be doing, you're going to want to be able to aim your gun as fast as possible to make it easier to lead targets. If you could put vertical stabilizers on this tank, I definitely would, because vertical stabilizers are more effective than a gun-laying drive, but you can't do the V-stab, so you have to go for the gun-laying drive. Alternatively, you might opt for coated optics, since the tank does have pretty good view range of 380, and that would give you an extra 38 meters of view range, which would push you up to almost 420 meters, which is really good. Some people might advise to even go with binocular telescopes in place of the the gun laying drive. If I was going to replace one of the modules, I would replace the gun laying drive. And if I switched off the gun laying drive, I would go for coated optics. But some people might go for binoculars in place of the gun laying drive and go for an even farther long range sniper role than I like to play. I can play the long range sniper role perfectly fine with the tank as it is, and with this equipment, I feel like I'm better able to do hybrid sniper brawler in a pinch, whereas with the binoculars, I'm not getting any additional brawling ability. So crew skills, you definitely want 6th Sense on the commander ASAP. You want repair on pretty much everybody else right away, except for maybe the driver, where clutch braking would be really, really good. Really, really good to have. After on the commander, after 6th Sense, I would probably go with repair. On the gunner, after repair, I would probably go with camouflage. On the driver, after clutch braking, I would probably either go for repairs or what is it called? Off-road driving. Because like I said before, mobility is the number 2 weapon in this tank, and clutch braking and off-road driving are going to make your driver be able to drive the tank a lot better, so that'll increase your mobility. On the radio operator and the loader, I would either go with repairs or safe stowage on the loader, and I would go with, or not repairs, I would go with camouflage or safe stowage on the loader and camouflage as well on the radio operator. So that's kind of my little rundown on crew skills. I definitely would not advise taking the fire extinguisher off this tank for any reason, because German tanks like to burn. So guys, we've been in the garage for 22 minutes, and I know that's a really long time, but I really thought it was worth conveying everything that I just talked about. And that is why I chose to not play both of these battles back to back, because I knew I was going to talk a lot in the garage, way more than usual, and I still wanted to put the battle in. So we're going to look at the first battle, and then we're going to have a separate video for battle number 2. So guys, I hope you got something useful out of the garage portion, and now we're finally going to get the Tiger into action. Alright, well, we are in battle with the Tiger. As I mentioned, I'm platooned up with Crewdog 16 from QSF, and Rurge, who is not in the clan, but he is Crewdog's friend. So, we are in a platoon that's kind of an odd platoon. Rurge is in the T-25-2, which he's trying to grind, and he's really good in that thing. He's a dangerous T-25-2 driver. If you see that guy in a T-25-2, do not screw around, because you can't just write that guy off because that tank is crappy. He knows what he's doing in it. And Crewdog in the A-44, the new Russian Tier 7 medium, he's pretty dangerous in that tank as well. I'm, of course, in the Tiger, and we are on Live Oaks. So, like a good heavy tank, I'm going to the city to fight the enemy heavies. Rurge is up top on the hill on TD Ridge in support, and Crewdog is leading the charge into town, because that A-44 makes a really good fast medium brawler. And since he has horrible gun depression, he didn't want to go over and fight near the bridge since it's so hilly there. And those are good decisions to make. So we had first contact with an enemy Hellcat, and we've knocked the Hellcat out. Now, this is a Tier 8 game, and there are a lot of Tier 8s on the enemy team. They have 3 Tier 8 heavies, 1 Tier 8 medium, and 2 Tier 8 tank destroyers. Our team has 3 Tier 8 heavies, 1 Tier 8 medium, and 1 Tier 8 TD. So we've got fewer Tier 8s, but we've got a dangerous Tier 7 platoon. Right, so time to get into battle. Now, first victim, Centurion Mark 1. He comes around the corner and I fire, and he starts firing back. At this point, I notice that he's a stock, which means he's got no armor anywhere on his tank, not a lot of health, and a crappy gun. So, I don't really need to give this guy the time of day. I can basically just shoot him. So that's what I've done. Crew Dog's put a couple of good hits onto him as well. That Centurion one is not long for this world. But it's time to get our rapid fire gun back into action and keep prosecuting targets. Now you can see that I've taken a pretty big hit from the T-32, but when the KV-1S shot me as I side-scraped around the corner, his shell got eaten by my track and did no damage. Now I bounced off the KV-1S, which was very disappointing, but from that point on, I'm going to punish the KV-1S using my high rate of fire, high penetration, putting shots into his side armor, just looking to damage this guy as much as possible. Unfortunately, Crew Dog just went down. The T-32 killed him, so he's unfortunately out of action. And I'm about to start engaging in some really annoying sniping, complicated by the positioning of our friendly T-25-2. So there we can see the good accuracy and penetration of the Tiger gun. I'm able to penetrate the lower plate of an angled Tiger II at 460 meters range. But now, this T-25-2 is just completely in the way, and what's really frustrating is that T-25-2 is never going to pen that Tiger. All he's going to do is make me more likely to get shot, or accidentally get shot in the back. So he really was annoying me. I try to fire one at the 110, but I fire basically straight into his upper plate, which was a terrible decision, and it was never going to pen. So we're back to shooting at the Tiger II rather. We are aiming for his lower plate, and we hit his track as he backs up, so that was unfortunate. This is where the gun sort of trolls me. We fire at the lower plate, shell goes high into the turret face, no damage. We fire at the lower face. Oh my god. We fired at the lower plate, and our shell drifted left into the Tiger II's track. Again, we're about to fire at the lower plate. Shell goes low, hits the ground. So I'm getting trolled by one of the most accurate sniping guns in the game. Fire at the lower plate again. Again, shell goes left, hit the track, no damage. And finally, I fire at the lower plate, and our Tiger II kills him. So I put all those shots at the lower plate of that Tiger II, and the gun just trolled the hell out of me, and I only landed one. Every single other shot drifted off target. Most of them hit the tracks, one hit the turret, one hit the ground. So, yeah. Not the best demonstrator of the accuracy of the Tiger gun, but we're about to make up for that with what's going on right now. So we've swept the town hardcore. The enemy's not pushing the south, so we're just sweeping through, and I can see the last known position of those TDs on the map, and I want to get into position to snipe them. And there you go, we have the enemy sighted. There's the AT-15, and there's the accuracy of the Tiger. I am able to snipe the side of that AT-15, which is barely even showing, and penetrate every shot with the just amazing accuracy of the Tiger. And we put 3 out of 3 into that AT-15. 4 out of 4 into the AT-15. Just look at that accuracy. And we might only be doing, a couple hundred damage per shot. 220, 202, 230, 270. But that's adding up really fast. We've done a lot of damage to that AT-15. And every single one of those shots was with him barely exposed. Now we aim at the AT-8, we fire, and we hit his track. But that's alright, because somebody else just smashed that guy. We fire a blind shell at him, and it misses. And, alright, it's time for me to close in and kill these guys. I've been dorking around as a sniper too long in this kind of a fight. This is the kind of fight where the Tiger needs to get off its butt and get into close range and just kill. So that's what we're trying to do. We see the enemy E-25. We put a shot at him on the move, managed to hit and do 280 damage, or 260 damage, which was nice. So we reload and we fire another one at the AT-8. Again on the move, hit him, leave him on like 20 health, and he backs off. So there's some accuracy of this thing on the move. Pretty troll right there. That was totally awesome. Now at this point, I've resolved to kill the AT-15 come hell or high water. So I crest the ridge and willingly take his shot and get the kill on him. I do the same thing against the T-28 prototype. And at this late stage of the game, with these enemy tanks, I've got health that I can trade in order to get kills. So they can do as much damage to me as they want, but I'm taking them down. We managed to polish off the AT-8. We detrack the E-25. And we put the shot into the E-25, securing the last kill of the game, and the match is completed. So let's take a look at some post-battle results, because that was a pretty fun game. We can see that was a Mastery Badge Ace Tanker, which I was pretty proud of. I've played quite a few games in the Tiger, and I was pretty happy to finally get the Ace Tanker in it. You can see that was a 3 times experience for the first win of the day. So we managed 6,789 experience. And because I completed the tanking 24/7 mission, I managed to get 250,000 bonus credits for a total of 322,160, which was nice. So we can see here the Litany of Destruction. It's pretty long. Here's one thing that's really frustrating. 7 shots into the Tiger, or into the Tiger II rather, 260 damage dealt. That was the one place in this battle where the gun let me down. And the other thing that let me down is even though I critted this guy's tracks multiple times, I did not get any assistance damage on that at all. Like, just how unlikely is that? That was the one thing where I was not pleased. Otherwise, the tank performed exactly the way I asked it to, and definitely lived up to what I was trying to accomplish, and we had a very, very successful game. So if we take a look at the battle results, you can see that we managed to deal 4,055 damage, which is a hell of a lot. Secured 5 kills, 1,509 unmodified experience, which is pretty good. Our T-32 or T-34 rather, he was basically holding the south largely by himself, not completely alone, but at the end of the battle in the south, he was the last man standing. That guy did 3,000 damage, 2 kills. He had a good game as well. Unfortunately, Crew Dog kind of rushed in early and got taken out, but Verge was still able to be pretty effective, using his T-25-2 as a support sniper, which is definitely the role that tank plays, and coming out with about 1,400 damage. That's not too bad for that tank in a match with a lot of tier 8s. So we had a pretty decent showing, and our team definitely played well. So let's take a look at the gun performance. We fired 32 shots. Out of those 32 shots, 29 of them hit. I missed the Tiger II once, and I'm not sure what else I missed, to be honest, but I missed the Tiger II once. Out of those 29 hits, 24 penetrated. So I bounced some off the Tiger II, and I actually bounced one off the KV-1S. But other than that, most of our shots did penetrate. And the thing that's weird is that some detracking shots count as penetrations, and others do not. So the number of times I hit that Tiger II and broke his tracks really screws up an accurate assessment of how many times I actually penetrated, because I can tell by the amount of penetrating hits that some of the hits on those Tiger II tracks counted as penetrations while others did not. I know that we also detracked the AT-8, which would have counted as a penetrating hit, and we detracked the E-25, which would have counted as a penetrating hit. So I think it's more likely that in terms of actual penetrations, excluding the detracking hits, we had somewhere around, I would say, about 20. So 29 hits, lots of detracking shots. I'm thinking about 5 to 7, and at least 1 bounce. So we still managed quite a few penning hits, and we dealt out 4,055 damage, which is pretty good. And because of our tracking, we did get 1,548 assistance damage, which was pretty nice. And again, you can see because of the event, we managed to pull down a huge amount of credits, 300,000 profit, which means without the event, that still would have been a 50,000 credit profit match. Unfortunately, because of the event, if we'd had a standard account, we wouldn't have made as much money. We still would have made money though, but not nearly as much. And one thing that is great about the Tiger 1 compared to the Tiger 2 is the ammo resupply cost. I fired 32 shells and it costs less than the resupply of 8 shots from the Tiger 2. That's definitely something worth pointing out. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that Tiger battle. I hope I didn't put you all to sleep too much in the garage. But stand by for the second edition of this battle because it should be pretty good. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that video. I definitely enjoyed that battle. It was a really, really fun match in the Tiger. Great tank. I love the Tiger. I'm glad it is still a competitive Tier 7 heavy tank, even though it is widely regarded as one of the worst Tier 7 heavies in the game. I heartily disagree with that. I rank the Tiger almost as strong as the IS and the T-29, and those are two of my favorite heavies in the game. So, and the T-29 is widely considered to be overpowered, and I don't think the T-29 has really got that much on the Tiger. So, I mean, it is what it is. Everybody's got their opinions, and they're all going to be different, but I'm an old fan of the Tiger. I've been playing it a lot. It was my third most played tank in beta, somewhere around 500 battles out of 4,000. We're driving the Tiger, so I've got quite a bit of experience in this tank, and I know how to make it. I know how to make it sit up and beg. So that's my opinion on the Tiger. And until next time, guys, just remember that you can never have enough big guns.